The white arch stood at the edge of the beach, simple and clean against the gray-blue ocean. A wind moved the white ribbons, making them twist like restless hands above me. Rows of chairs faced it, nearly full now. I should have felt proud. Instead, I kept looking toward the resort doors. "Hold still," my mother said. "I'm holding still. You're shaking. I'm getting married. I'm allowed to shake." She gave me a sad little smile and fastened my father's watch around my wrist. The leather strap was worn, but the face still worked. "He wore this on our wedding day," she said. "I know. He would be proud of you." I looked at the second hand, moving in small, steady clicks. "I wish he were here." "So do I." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out too fast. Nothing new. Vanessa's last message still sat on the screen. "I'll be there. Stop worrying." I read it again. Then again. Noah walked over, already frowning. Still no sign of her. She said she'd be here. She also said rehearsal dinner mattered. She was on call. She left after 20 minutes. She had a patient. You always have an answer for her. I locked my phone. "Not today, Noah. I'm trying to help." "Then help me believe she's coming." He stared at me, but he said nothing. Across the sand, Lily stood near the aisle in her pale blue dress. She checked her phone, looked toward the parking lot, then quickly looked away when I caught her. I walked toward her. "Lily." She flinched. "Ethan, where is Vanessa?" "She's coming." That didn't sound like an answer. "She told me not to worry you." My stomach tightened. "About what?" Before she could speak, my phone began ringing. "Vanessa." Relief hit me so hard I nearly laughed. I answered at once. "Please tell me you're outside." "I'm not outside," Vanessa said. I frowned. "Then where are you?" "I'm at Logan." I stopped breathing for a second. "Logan Airport?" "Yes." "You're joking." "No." I looked toward the beach. Guests were still talking, laughing, waiting. None of them knew my world had just tilted. "You're at the airport?" I asked again. "I told you this conference mattered. Our wedding mattered. It is one day, Ethan. It is supposed to be our day. You always make everything emotional." I gripped my phone so tightly my hand hurt. "Tell me you're coming back." "I can't." "You can. My flight boards in 20 minutes. I closed my eyes. "Vanessa, everyone is here." "I know. My mother is here." "I know. My father's chair is waiting." Silence filled the line. I whispered, "Please. This fellowship review could change my career. So can getting married." "You don't understand." "Then help me understand. I've worked too hard to miss this opportunity. You promised me. I'm asking you to be reasonable." I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "Reasonable? We can reschedule. You think I can tell 100 guests that my bride skipped our wedding because the beach was too crowded?" "It isn't only that." "Then what is it?" "I hate everyone watching me. You knew this wedding was happening for months. I thought I could handle it. And today, I can't. You never even told me." I didn't want another argument. I felt something inside me crack. "You let me decorate this beach." "Yes." "You let my family travel here." "Yes." "You let me believe today was real." Another silence. Finally, she sighed. "You're good at handling people, Ethan." My voice turned cold. "What does that mean?" "Handle it." The call ended. I stared at the black screen. For a moment, I could still hear the ocean. Then even the waves seemed to disappear. "Ethan." I looked up. Lily stood only a few feet away, tears filling her eyes. "I'm so sorry." I swallowed hard. "You knew." She lowered her head. "She told me 2 days ago." The words hit harder than the phone call. "She made me promise not to tell you." I could barely speak. "You watched me smile all morning. I thought she'd change her mind." "She didn't." "No." "And you still said nothing." I was wrong. I looked past Lily toward the white arch. Everything I had built for this day was still standing. Only my future had disappeared. I could not answer Lily. My throat burned too much to force out another word. Footsteps hurried across the sand. "Ethan, what happened?" my mother asked. I looked at her, then at the watch on my wrist. "She isn't coming." My mother froze. Noah stepped closer. "What do you mean she isn't coming?" "She went to Chicago." "For the conference?" he asked. I nodded once. His face turned red. "You're kidding." "I wish I was." "She actually left?" "Yes." "She left you standing at your own wedding?" "Yes." Noah turned toward the parking lot. "I'll tell everyone exactly what she did." Before he could move, another voice interrupted. Please don't. I turned and saw Evelyn Whitmore walking toward us. Her expression was calm, almost rehearsed. We should tell the guest Vanessa had a medical emergency. I stared at her. A medical emergency? It will protect her reputation. What about mine? This situation is difficult for everyone. No, I said quietly. It's difficult for me. She never wanted to hurt you. She already did. Evelyn folded her arms. There is no reason to embarrass my daughter. I felt my anger replacing the shock. She embarrassed herself. My mother touched my shoulder. You don't owe anyone a performance. I looked around. The flowers, the chairs, the music, the aisle I'd spent months planning. Every guest had given up their weekend because they believed in us. Now, they were waiting for an answer. Noah looked at me. What do you want to do? Part of me wanted to disappear. Another part wanted to scream. Instead, I took a slow breath. I won't run. My mother searched my face. Are you sure? Yes. I'll stand in front of them. And then, I'll tell the truth. Before anyone could answer, I heard careful footsteps behind me. I turned. Claire Bennett stood a few feet away in a simple blue dress. We had worked together at the airport for nearly 2 years. She looked at me with quiet concern instead of pity. I heard enough, she said softly. I managed a tired smile. This isn't exactly how I imagined today. No, she replied. Silence settled between us for a moment. Then she stepped beside me, looked toward the empty aisle, and gently said, You don't have to walk that aisle alone. Claire's words stayed in the air long after she spoke. You don't have to walk that aisle alone. I stared at her. Claire, you don't understand. I understand enough. No, you don't. She stepped closer, but kept her voice gentle. Then help me understand. I looked past her at the guests. They were smiling, taking pictures, completely unaware that the wedding had already ended. I can't do this, I whispered. You can. My bride left. I know. Everyone is waiting. I know. I've never felt this embarrassed. She nodded. I believe you. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, I'm not asking you to pretend nothing happened. I frowned. I'm asking you not to face it alone. I can't ask you to stand beside me. You didn't. What will people think? She gave a small shrug. They're already going to think something. I let out a slow breath. I don't want them believing you're replacing Vanessa. I'm not replacing anyone. Then why would you do this? She smiled sadly. Because I've seen good people abandoned before. Her answer caught me off guard. When I waited 3 years for someone who only remembered me when his plans failed. I'm sorry. So am I. She looked toward the white arch. I promised myself I'd never watch someone stand alone if I could help. I rubbed my father's watch with my thumb. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say out there. Say the truth. The truth will destroy today. No, Claire answered quietly. The lie will. Before I could reply, my mother walked over. She looked from me to Claire. Then she asked softly, What are you thinking, Ethan? I swallowed. I don't know. She held my hand. You don't have to protect people who didn't protect you. Those words settled deep inside me. For the first time since Vanessa's call, I stopped thinking about saving the wedding. I started thinking about saving myself. I looked at the officiant waiting near the arch. Can we talk? I asked. Of course, he replied. I walked a few steps away with him while Claire, my mother, and Noah stayed behind. I can't have the wedding, I said. I understand, but I don't want everyone leaving with rumors. What would you like to do? I want to tell them myself. He nodded. That takes courage. I don't feel brave. You don't have to. You only have to be honest. I took a slow breath. There won't be a marriage today. No, but I still want to walk to that arch. He smiled gently. Then let's give you that chance. When we returned, Noah folded his arms. So, I've decided. What? I'll walk out there. His eyes widened. Alone. Before I answered, Claire quietly said, Not if he doesn't want to. I looked at her. Are you sure? Yes. You know people will talk. They already are. I don't want this to hurt you. It won't. You barely know my family. I know enough to see you're hurting. I laughed softly for the first time that day. You make everything sound simple. It isn't simple. Then why aren't you afraid? I am. You don't look afraid. She smiled. Flight attendants learn how to stay calm while everyone else panics. My mother squeezed my shoulder. She has a point. I looked at Claire again. If we do this, I need everyone to understand something. What? You're not pretending to be my bride. Of course not. You're walking beside a friend. Yes. Nothing more. She met my eyes. Nothing less. Those words stayed with me. The music coordinator walked over. Should I stop the processional? I shook my head. No. You still want the music? Yes. Are you certain? I've spent months planning this day. And now I refuse to hide from it. The coordinator nodded and walked away. I watched the guests take their seats one last time. My heartbeat grew louder with every passing second. Claire stepped beside me. Ready? No. Good. I blinked. Good. Nobody is ready for the hardest moment of their life. She offered her arm. We'll face it one step at a time. I looked toward the aisle. This time, I wasn't waiting for someone who had chosen to leave. I was choosing how I wanted to stand. The music began to play. I looked at Claire one last time. You can still walk away, I said. She smiled. So can you. I shook my head. Not anymore. Together, we stepped onto the aisle. The conversations stopped almost instantly. Every face turned toward us. Some guests looked confused. Others whispered to the person beside them. I kept my eyes on the white arch because I knew I would lose my nerve if I looked anywhere else. When we reached the front, I thanked Claire with a quiet nod before turning to face everyone. I owe all of you the truth, I began. The beach fell completely silent. Vanessa isn't coming. A wave of shocked whispers spread through the crowd. She wasn't delayed. She wasn't called to an emergency. She chose to attend a medical conference instead of our wedding. I paused, forcing myself to breathe. I could have lied to protect her reputation. I glanced toward Evelyn. But I won't lie to protect someone who broke a promise. My mother's eyes filled with tears, yet she smiled proudly. I invited you here to celebrate love. I continued. I can't give you the wedding you came to see, but I can give you honesty. Thank you for standing with me today. I looked toward the reception area. All the food prepared for this wedding will be donated to the local shelter. Please stay, eat, spend time together, and don't let this day become only a memory of disappointment. For a moment, nobody moved. Then someone started clapping. Another guest joined. Soon the entire beach filled with applause. I wasn't being celebrated because I had won. I was being supported because I had refused to hide. Claire stepped beside me again. You did the right thing. I hope so. You did. As the guests slowly gathered around us, Marcus hurried across the sand with his phone in his hand. Ethan, he said, breathing hard. You need to see this. What is it? He turned the screen toward me. A photo had just been posted from the Chicago conference. Vanessa wasn't sitting alone. She was smiling beside Dr. Adrian Shaw. His hand rested comfortably over hers. My stomach dropped. Marcus looked at me and quietly said, I don't think the conference was the real reason she left. I couldn't stop staring at the photo on Marcus's phone. Vanessa stood beside Dr. Adrian Shaw, smiling as if nothing had happened. His hand rested lightly over hers. It wasn't enough to prove an affair, but it was enough to make my chest tighten. Marcus looked at me. Say something. I don't know what to say. You don't think this looks wrong? I think everything looks wrong. Claire stayed beside me without speaking. Finally, she asked, Do you want me to drive you home? I nodded. Please. The ride back to Boston was almost silent. Halfway there, my phone buzzed. Vanessa. I stared at her name until the ringing stopped. Claire glanced at me. You don't have to answer. I know. A second later, another message appeared. We need to talk. Stop making this worse. I let out a bitter laugh. She thinks I'm making this worse. Claire kept her eyes on the road. What are you going to do? I don't know. Then don't decide tonight. When I reached the apartment, I unlocked the door and froze. Vanessa's suitcase was still by the bedroom wall. Her coffee mug still sat beside the sink. Her running shoes were still near the front door. Everything looked exactly the same. Nothing felt the same. I picked up the framed engagement photo from the shelf. I remembered the day we took it. I thought we looked happy, I whispered. My phone rang again. This time I answered. What? Finally, Vanessa said. Why have you been ignoring me? I watched you skip our wedding. I already told you why. No. You told me a story. It wasn't a story. Then explain the picture with Adrian. There was a long pause. You're overreacting. I asked you a simple question. He's my mentor. Mentors don't usually hold hands in airport lounges. You're twisting everything. I closed my eyes. No, Vanessa. My voice stayed calm, but my heart wasn't. For the first time in 4 years, I'm finally seeing everything clearly. You're being unfair, Vanessa said. Unfair? Yes. You left me standing at our wedding. I had an opportunity that could change my career. You could have told me the truth. I knew you would try to stop me. I would have tried to understand. No, Ethan. You would have turned it into another emotional conversation. I laughed without humor. Our wedding deserved an emotional conversation. She sighed. I don't have the energy for this. I didn't have the choice. Silence filled the call. Then I asked, did you ever plan to come? Yes. When? After the conference. You expected me to leave the decorations up until you finished? You're twisting my words again. No, I'm repeating them. She ended the call. I lowered the phone and stared at the dark screen. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to call her back. The next morning, I packed a suitcase. I folded my clothes quietly, leaving everything that belonged to Vanessa untouched. Noah arrived before noon. So you're really moving out? Yes. Good. I thought you'd say I was giving up. You're finally waking up. I zipped the suitcase. I still love her. I know. That makes this harder. No, Noah replied. It proves you loved honestly. I looked around the apartment one last time. I don't recognize this place anymore. Because it stopped feeling like home the moment she chose that flight. As we carried the last box downstairs, my phone buzzed again. This time a message wasn't from Vanessa. It was from Lily. Can we meet? I need to tell you something. I showed the message to Noah. What do you think? I think she's hiding more than she admitted. That evening we met Lily at a quiet coffee shop. She looked exhausted. I owe you the truth, she said. You already told me Vanessa warned you. There's more. My stomach tightened. How much more? Lily took a shaky breath. She didn't decide to attend the conference at the last minute. My pulse quickened. When did she decide? Lily looked down at her coffee. 12 days before your wedding. The words landed harder than I expected. Everything I had believed about that day began to fall apart. I stared at Lily, hoping she would tell me I had misunderstood. 12 days? I asked. She nodded slowly. She bought the ticket almost 2 weeks before the wedding. She knew she wasn't coming. She kept saying she wasn't sure, but she never canceled the flight. I leaned back in my chair. She watched me finish the seating chart. Yes. She smiled while we met the florist. Yes. She let me pay the final deposits. Lily closed her eyes. Yes. I rubbed my forehead. Why didn't you tell me? She begged me not to. That wasn't an answer. She said she'd lose you if you found out too soon. I looked at her. She wanted to keep me until she was ready to leave. Tears filled Lily's eyes. I think that's true. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she reached into her purse and placed a small gift box on the table. I shouldn't have kept this. I opened it carefully. Inside was a silver bracelet. What's this? Dr. Adrian Shaw gave it to Vanessa 3 months ago. I looked up. She told me it was from a hospital fundraiser. She lied. My chest tightened again. Were they having an affair? I don't know, Lily answered honestly. I never saw anything physical, but they spent time together outside work. Private dinners. Long phone calls. She kept saying Adrian understood her in ways you couldn't. The words hurt more than I expected. Not because I believed I had lost to another man. Because I realized she had been building another future while pretending to build one with me. Lily wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, Ethan. So am I. My phone vibrated before either of us could speak again. The screen showed an email notification. Subject, formal notice of legal action. I frowned. What now? I opened it. My hands grew cold as I read each line. Vanessa was demanding repayment for the wedding expenses. Worse, she claimed I had publicly humiliated her and accused me of having an inappropriate relationship with Claire before the wedding. I looked at Noah in disbelief. She isn't trying to apologize, I whispered. She wants to rewrite the story. For the first time since she left me at the altar, I stopped wondering how to win her back. I started wondering how to prove the truth. I read the legal notice 3 more times before I finally lowered my phone. Noah leaned closer. Well, she want me to pay her. For what? The wedding. He laughed in disbelief. She skipped it. I know. She left you standing at the altar. I know. And now she's blaming you? I nodded. She says I damaged her reputation. Noah shook his head. This isn't about money. I don't think so either. She wants control. I look down at the email again. She also says Claire and I were involved before the wedding. Noah frowned. That's a lie. I know, but she'll keep saying it unless someone stops her. My phone rang before I could answer. Claire. I picked up immediately. I heard from Marcus, she said. Are you okay? Not really. What happened? Vanessa's lawyer sent me a legal notice. There was a brief silence. What does she want? She claims I ruined her reputation. You didn't. She says you and I were secretly together. Claire let out a slow breath. So that's her plan. I guess. What are you going to do? I honestly don't know. You're going to tell the truth. What if the truth isn't enough? It has to be. I smiled despite everything. You always sound so certain. Only because you're forgetting who you are. What do you mean? You're the man who stood in front of 100 guests and refused to lie. Her words settled inside me. For the first time since opening the email, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt resolve. That evening, Marcus came to my apartment carrying a folder. I've been making calls, he said. You already found something? He nodded. You're not going to like it. I opened the folder. Inside were copies of the wedding contracts, payment receipts, and vendor confirmations. Every major payment had come from my bank account. Marcus looked me in the eye. If she's taking you to court, she's picked the wrong fight. For the first time in weeks, I stopped thinking about defending myself. I started thinking about proving every lie she had told. The next morning, Marcus spread the documents across my kitchen table. Look at these, he said. I picked up the first receipt. The resort. You paid it. I reached for another. The florist. You paid that too. I kept going. The photographer. The catering. The musicians. Every invoice carried my name. I looked at Marcus. She knows I covered almost everything. She knows, he replied. She's hoping you'll settle instead of fighting back. A knock came at the door. Noah walked in holding his laptop. I found something. What? He placed the computer in front of me. Look at the booking confirmation. I stared at the screen. Vanessa's flight to Chicago had been purchased 12 days before our wedding. 12 days, I whispered. She planned it. She had plenty of time to tell me. She chose not to. I leaned back in my chair. So every promise she made after buying that ticket was a lie. Noah nodded. She never intended to let you make your own decision. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Vanessa. I'll let it ring. It stopped. Then it rang again. Marcus folded his arms. You should answer. I took a slow breath and accepted the call. What do you want? We need to fix this, Vanessa said. I try to fix it on our wedding day. You're making this harder than it needs to be. You sued me. I sent a legal notice. What's the difference? You embarrassed me in front of everyone. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You left me standing alone. I had no choice. You bought your plane ticket 12 days before the ceremony. Silence. Finally, she spoke. Who told you? So it's true. That isn't the point. It is the only point. She sounded frustrated. You're trying to make me the villain. No. I stood and looked out the window. You made that decision yourself. The line went quiet again. For the first time since we met, she had no excuse left to hide behind. You don't understand the pressure I was under, Vanessa finally said. I asked you to marry me, not abandon your career. You're twisting everything. No, I'm separating your career from your choices. She let out a frustrated sigh. Adrian believed in me. I believe in you too. This isn't the same. No, it isn't. I tightened my grip on the phone. I never asked you to choose between medicine and me. You're making me sound selfish. I don't have to make you sound like anything. She didn't answer. I continued. You had every right to chase your dream. You never had the right to leave me standing at the altar without telling me the truth. Another long silence followed. Then she spoke quietly. What do you want from me? The truth. I've already told you. No. What more do you want? I want you to stop blaming everyone else. She ended the call without another word. I slowly lowered my phone. Marcus looked at me. How do you feel? Strangely calm. Why? Because I finally stopped expecting an apology. Noah smiled for the first time in days. That's progress. 2 days later, my attorney called. I've reviewed everything you sent. What do you think? You have strong evidence. The receipts. Yes. And the flight confirmation? That helps even more. So what happens now? We respond with the truth. After the call ended, another message appeared on my phone. It was from Claire. Coffee after work? No pressure. I smiled before I realized I was smiling. I replied, I'd like that. That evening we sat in a quiet cafe overlooking the harbor. She didn't ask about court. She didn't ask about Vanessa. Instead, she asked, have you eaten today? I laughed softly. Not until now. Then let's fix that first. For the first time in weeks, someone cared more about how I was doing than about the drama surrounding me. As we talked, my phone vibrated again. I ignored it. Claire noticed. You're not checking? No. Why not? Because I'm tired of letting every message control my day. She smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. When I finally looked at the screen an hour later, I saw 3 missed calls from Vanessa. For once, I didn't feel guilty for missing them. I put my phone back into my pocket. My future was no longer waiting for her next decision. It was finally beginning with my own. 3 months passed faster than I expected. For the first time in years, my mornings no longer began with checking whether Vanessa had answered my messages. Instead, they began with coffee, early shifts, and quiet moments that belonged only to me. Marcus leaned against my office door. You look different. Different how? You're sleeping. I laughed. Is it that obvious? You actually smile now. I forgot what that felt like. He nodded. That means you're healing. I don't know if I'm healed. You don't have to be. My phone buzzed. Marcus looked at it. You gonna check? I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I turned the phone over without reading it. No. He smiled. A few months ago, you would have answered before it finished ringing. I know. What changed? I finally realized peace is quieter than drama. Later that afternoon, my manager called me into his office. Close the door, Ethan. I sat down. Everything okay? Better than okay. He slid a folder across the desk. We've been watching your work. I frowned. My work. You stayed calm during the holiday delays. I was just doing my job. You also trained 3 new employees. They needed help, and every passenger complaint mentioned your professionalism. I didn't know what to say. He smiled. We're promoting you to operations supervisor. I stared at him. Seriously? You earned it. I shook his hand. Thank you. When I stepped outside, I called my mother first. You're crying, I said. They're happy tears. I wish Dad were here. He'd tell everyone in the room that his son earned it. I smiled through the tightness in my throat. After work, Claire met me outside the terminal. You look happy. I got promoted. Her face lit up. I knew you would. You believed it before I did. I've been believing in you for a long time. I looked at her. You've never asked me to become someone else. She smiled softly. No, you've only reminded me who I already was. For the first time since the wedding, I felt my future opening instead of closing. Then my phone buzzed again. This time the name on the screen made my smile disappear. Vanessa. I stared at Vanessa's name until the phone stopped ringing. Claire noticed. You don't have to answer. I know. Do you want to? I slipped the phone back into my pocket. No. She smiled. Good. We walked toward a small cafe across the street. As soon as we sat down, my phone vibrated again. This time it was a message. Please talk to me. Just 5 minutes. I sighed. She doesn't give up. Claire stirred her coffee. People usually don't when they're losing control. I looked at her. You're not jealous? Should I be? I don't know. She smiled gently. I trust you, Ethan. Those 4 words hit me harder than I expected. Nobody had ever trusted me so calmly. I looked down at my coffee. Thank you. For what? For making everything feel peaceful. She laughed softly. I'll take that as a compliment. It is. The next evening, I returned to my apartment after work. Someone was waiting outside. Vanessa. She stood as soon as she saw me. Can we talk? I stayed where I was. You already had your chance. Please. I hesitated before walking closer. She looked different. The confidence that had always surrounded her was gone. There were dark circles under her eyes. I heard about your promotion, she said. Thank you. I wanted to congratulate you. You could have sent a message. I wanted to see you. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, she whispered, Adrian lied to me. I said nothing. He promised me a research position. Silence. He said I was different. Another silence. He never intended to leave his wife. I looked at her carefully. So now you understand what it feels like? Tears filled her eyes. I made a terrible mistake. You made many. I know. I begged you to come back. I know. You told me to handle it. She lowered her head. I remember. I took a slow breath. What do you want from me now? She looked into my eyes. One more chance. My heart stayed strangely calm. Months earlier, those words would have shattered me. Now they only made me sad. I looked at Vanessa for a long moment before answering. You're asking for something I can't give. She wiped her eyes. Please don't decide so quickly. I didn't. You haven't even thought about it. I've thought about it every day since you left me at the altar. She took one careful step toward me. I was afraid of becoming ordinary. You told me that before. I thought success would make me happy. Did it? She shook her head. No. What happened? Adrian stopped returning my calls the moment the investigation started. I stayed silent. My fellowship was delayed. I nodded once. My mother blames me for everything. Another pause. I lost Lily too. I could hear the regret in her voice, but regret could not erase what had happened. She looked at me again. I finally understand what I threw away. I answered honestly. I believe you. Hope appeared in her eyes. But understanding it now doesn't change what you chose then. Her shoulders dropped. I don't deserve another chance, do I? I took a slow breath. I forgive you. She blinked. You do? Yes. She reached toward me. Before her hand touched mine, I stepped back. I forgive you because I don't want to carry this pain anymore. Her hand slowly fell to her side. But forgiveness isn't the same as going back. Tears rolled down her face. I know. For the first time, I believe she truly did. Just then, Claire walked across the parking lot carrying 2 cups of coffee. She stopped when she saw us. Am I interrupting? I smiled gently. No. Vanessa looked at Claire, then back at me. So this is real? Yes. Claire quietly stood beside me, without saying another word. Vanessa managed a weak smile. I used to think she replaced me. Claire spoke calmly. No one can replace someone who chose to leave. Vanessa lowered her eyes. You're right. She looked at me one last time. I hope you're happy, Ethan. I think I'm finally learning how. She nodded and walked away without looking back. Claire handed me one of the coffees. You okay? I watched Vanessa disappear into the evening crowd. Yes. For real. For the first time in a long time. I held the warm cup in my hands and realized something had changed. I no longer measure my future by the person who left. I measured it by the peace I had finally found. That peace gave me the courage to return to the beach where everything had fallen apart, and where I would discover what closure truly meant. 1 year later, I stood on the same beach where my life had fallen apart. The white arch was different now. Fresh flowers covered the posts, and colorful banners surrounded the entrance to a charity event supporting the local shelter that had received the food from my canceled wedding reception. I smiled to myself. Life had a strange way of giving painful places a second chance. Thinking too much again, I turned and saw Claire walking toward me. I was remembering. The bad memories? Some of them. She handed me a cup of coffee. And the good ones? I didn't think there were any. She laughed softly. You met me here. I did. And that's not a bad memory. No, I admitted. It isn't. We walked slowly across the sand together. Children played near the water while volunteers set up folding tables for free health screenings and food donations. This turned out bigger than I expected, I said. The shelter director said your story inspired several local businesses to help. My story. You donated an entire wedding reception instead of wasting it. I wasn't trying to inspire anyone. I know. She smiled at me. That makes it even better. I looked at the ocean. A year ago, I thought standing here would always hurt. And now, it still hurts a little. She slipped her hand into mine. But it doesn't control me anymore. Before she could answer, an older volunteer walked over. Ethan, yes. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for inviting me. He smiled. A lot of people still remember what you did that day. I'd rather they remembered why we're here today. They will. As he walked away, Claire looked at me. You've changed. I hope so. You don't carry the same weight anymore. I finally stopped carrying someone else's choices. She squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you. Hearing those words meant more than I could explain. Not because I needed approval, because I believed them. For the first time in my life, I felt proud of myself too. Then I noticed a familiar figure volunteering near the medical tents. My steps slowed. Claire followed my gaze. Ethan, I quietly answered. Vanessa. Claire looked at me. Do you want to leave? I watched Vanessa speaking with an elderly patient before turning back to Claire. No. Are you sure? Yes. A year ago, this would have been different. I know. What changed? I did. Claire smiled. Then let's stay. We walked toward the charity tents together. A few minutes later, Vanessa noticed me. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she slowly walked over. Hello, Ethan. Hello, Vanessa. She glanced at Claire. Hi. Claire nodded politely. Hi. The silence felt uncomfortable, but it wasn't painful anymore. Vanessa broke it first. I wasn't expecting to see you. I wasn't expecting to see you either. She looked around the beach. I volunteer here once a month now. That's good. I wanted to give something back. I nodded. I hope it's helping. It is. She looked down for a moment. I've been wanting to tell you something. I waited. This time, it isn't about asking for another chance. Okay. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry. I stayed quiet. I don't mean the kind of apology I gave before. She looked directly into my eyes. I blamed my career. Yes. I blamed pressure. Yes. I blamed fear. Yes. But the truth is that I made a selfish decision. The wind carried her words away for a moment. Then she continued. I thought success mattered more than the person waiting for me. I nodded slowly. I know. No. She shook her head. I don't think you knew how deeply I believe that. Another long silence passed. Finally, she smiled sadly. I understand now that ambition means nothing if you destroy the people who love you. I believed her. Not because I wanted to, because her voice carried something it had never carried before. Responsibility. I appreciate your apology, I said. You do? Yes. She looked relieved. Thank you. But I also need you to understand something. She waited quietly. An apology can heal a wound. I took Claire's hand. It can't return the life we already lived. Vanessa looked at our joined hands. Instead of anger, she smiled gently. Understand. For the first time since our wedding day, there was nothing left that needed to be argued. Only acceptance remained. Vanessa gave us one last smile before turning back toward the medical tent. I watched her walk away. This time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel regret. I didn't wonder what could have been. I simply wished her well. Claire looked at me. What are you thinking? I smiled. That I'm finally free. She squeezed my hand. I've been waiting to hear you say that. We continued walking along the beach until we reached the old white arch. It wasn't decorated for a wedding anymore. Children had tied colorful ribbons around it during the charity event. Families were laughing nearby. The place that once held the worst day of my life had become a place filled with hope. Claire stopped beneath the arch. You know, she said, I've always wanted to ask you something. What is it? Do you remember what I told you the day your wedding fell apart? I laughed softly. I could never forget. What did I say? I looked into her eyes. You told me I didn't have to walk that aisle alone. She smiled. I meant every word. I know. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The ocean breeze moved gently around us. I reached into my jacket pocket and took out my father's watch. The leather strap had grown older over the past year, but it still kept perfect time. Claire looked at it. You wear it every day? I do. Why? Because it reminds me of something. What? My father believed love was about showing up. She nodded. He was right. I looked at the watch one last time before fastening it securely around my wrist. I spent years waiting for someone to choose me. Claire stepped closer. You don't have to wait anymore. No. I smiled. I don't. I reached for her hand. Claire. Yes. I don't want today to be about replacing the past. I wouldn't want that either. I want it to be about choosing our future. Her eyes filled with happy tears. I'd like that. So would I. We walked beneath the arch together, not because anyone expected us to, but because it finally felt right. There were no photographers, no guests waiting, no pressure, no promises made out of fear. Only two people choosing the same direction. As we stepped beyond the arch, I looked back only once. A year earlier, I had stood there begging someone to value my time. Now I understood that the right person never makes you beg. Love isn't measured by grand speeches or expensive weddings. It's measured by who stays when staying is difficult. I smiled as the waves rolled onto the shore. The first time I walked that aisle, I was waiting for someone to choose me. The second time I already had.